Welcome back. Today, as promised, I want to share with you one of my favorite tools for self-integration and the self-awareness expansion journey. We will talk about Yoga Nidra. But Yoga Nidra is a state of consciousness, it's not a tool. So near the end of this episode, I will share with you my own experiences with the state of Yoga Nidra. And before that, we will talk about what Yoga Nidra even is, what we use it for, and the tools that we can use to get ourselves there and all the other benefits of those tools. Okay, so this is something I'm really passionate about, and I hope that you will enjoy sharing this journey with me. Let's begin with what Yoga Nidra is. And to understand that, let's look at the self-awareness journey in general. Usually it starts in the gross layer. So we experience something outside of us that we recognize affects us. And so we begin to go into subtler and subtler layers within ourselves to understand that, the correspondence between the outside and the inside. And the deeper we go, the subtler it becomes, until one day we reach a realization that in fact this was never me to begin with. It was both me and not the deepest aspect of me. Okay, so I've talked about the koshas before, which helps to explain this, but another way to explain this journey from gross to subtle is the states that we all experience in our everyday life. So we experience the waking state when we walk around, we interact with the environment, and in terms of brainwave frequencies, we're generally in the alpha range. And if we sit down and start to relax and our internal self becomes as important as the external self, we're becoming relaxed, almost meditative, we drop into beta. Okay, now if we actually sit down in meditation and let all the outside noise calm down, then we will reach a more subtle layer within ourselves, which corresponds to the unconscious or subconscious. And this is the theta range of brainwave frequency, okay? And this corresponds also to when we lay down in bed at night and fall into dream sleep. Okay, so what it means is that we still have filters to our perception, but those filters to perception aren't as strong, aren't as blinding as when we're in the waking state of being. So after the dream sleep state, of course, comes the deep sleep state, and you can experience this in meditation as well. This is when everything else drops away. You're not engaging or noticing anything about the external world anymore. All that exists in a space is your awareness, and all the thought, impressions, images, usual associations between emotions and thoughts, they all still exist, but they exist in a latent form. Okay, so it's almost like they are sleeping and we can observe it. Okay, so we do that naturally in our deep sleep state, but it's possible to become consciously aware of it. Just like we can bring our conscious awareness with us into dream sleep state and experience this lucid way of dreaming, we can experience that in deep sleep state as well. And it's not about, like, lucid dreaming is more about controlling your dreams and experiencing this and that. That's not what we aim for in yoga. In yoga, these states are profound places of dealing with the stories that follow you, that you can't seem to let go of, the pains that you can't seem to let go of. In dream sleep state, it will work more profoundly than if you work on them in a waking state, and correspondingly in a deep sleep state, you're working with the actual root of them. And so, of course, it will have lasting consequences if you manage to come into this state and just witness. So this is what you are. This is the state of consciousness. You are just witnessing, and you can see these thought patterns come up, and you will find that you're not attached to them. And so it's easier for you to let them go, to consciously make the choice to let them go. Okay, so this is the whole point of going to Yoga Nidra. It is the releasing all those attachments that make you unable to go further in through the layers to your soulmost essence of your being, right? Your bliss layer, okay? So when there's nothing veiling the truth of who you are anymore, you will naturally experience it. Now, I'm usually the first to say that it's better for us that we don't have expectations of wanting to go into this state, because I believe it's something that comes naturally for us when we are ready. When I first experienced this state, I did not expect it, I did not try to go there, and I didn't know what it was when I first experienced it. But this is something that I read afterwards, that it is actually natural to fall into this place when we're ready. And it's when our lives become like this moving meditation that we're just naturally falling deeper and deeper into this state of being. And it may even be there with us without us even noticing. So something we can aim for, which is probably very beneficial because it helps motivate us to get back to practice day after day, is to focus on the more tangible benefits to our life. So whatever tool we choose, and there are a number of tools that are designed to help us go deeper into Yoga Nidra, they all have a similar range of benefits, and I will share some of them with you. So when I started this practice, I didn't even have yoga or Yoga Nidra in mind. I just wanted to help my body relax because it got tense every day. I was out in the mountains a lot and I was working a little bit too much, and I just needed a way to help my body relax. And I also wanted to sleep better. And that one turned out to be a bit confusing to me in the beginning because my body was more relaxed when I did the exercise. But the more I did it, the more I learned to stay awake during my sleep. And it was very confusing because I thought that I wasn't sleeping, but I was. It was just that I was awake during the sleep. But it does help rejuvenate your body quite a lot. Now, of course, it also helps practice your focused attention. That is one of the first main points of all these practices. They are all simple. The Yoga Nidra preparation exercises are all based on the idea of shifting your awareness here and there, just practicing your ability to focus on a point and then to hold your focus in an act of concentration. All right, so the more you're able to do this, and it really does come with practice, the more you are learning to go into that space of absorption, which is a state of full concentration, of full focus on a state of awareness or a state of consciousness. And now the mind is unruly. Of course, it will be unfocused. It will lose the focus. It will lose what it was working with. And so it's a practice of mindfulness, of being compassionate with our unruly mind, and learn to be an unconditional witness as well, just as any meditation. And finally, and one point that I think is really important and often forgotten, it's a practice that can really, really help you reconnect with the subtleties of your own body, of your own energy. So you really get to know your body, you really get to know your energy. You can learn how to feel energy, how to read energy movements in your own body if you're not already aware of that. So it's like sharpening the tools of your own sensations within your body, within yourself. And the more you tune into that, the more accurate it becomes. And it actually helps you expand awareness within yourself and helps purify all of the koshas just by the very practice of noticing, of being aware of the different sensations in the body itself. And I feel that that is something that is really needed at this time when there is a lot of awareness, like we have our heads in the clouds, but we need to bring it back into the body. We need to integrate it with our body and let it live from there. Let that knowingness live in our day-to-day experience as who we are, okay? So the first step to embodiment, if you will. Now let's dive into my favorite tool for Yoga Nidra. So there are several traditional methods designed to help us go there. And among them, this is my favorite for a few reasons. First of all, it's very simple. It does not rely on visualization. Once you've learned a method, you don't really have to think about it. It's very natural. It also helps you go all the way from the most gross physical layer all the way in, subtler and subtler, until you're ready to let the vehicle go. So just by embracing this one method, it can really take you all the way. And finally, it's very real. So it encourages you to really see what is there in your experience at each layer of your being, one after the other. And when you do, you're confronted with it. It might be a bit uncomfortable, but that is also your awareness expansion. That is also how you learn to love more of who you are, learn to love more of your experience as it is right now. Okay. So this method is called the 61 points, and you may have heard of it from me before. And it's very simple. It relies on these different points in the body, which I will walk you through soon. So in this exercise, you want to allow yourself to scan through your body systematically with your focused awareness, your alert awareness, okay? So beginning at one point, you want to be with unconditional witnessing at that point until you can feel this natural release of tension. So beginning with a physical layer, that would be physical tension. And that can happen at different depths. So if you feel when you begin doing this work that I did feel some release of tension, but I can't go all the way, that's okay. You can allow yourself to move on and let it be a practice that you go gradually deeper and deeper into relaxation. I want to say don't try too hard. So it is the power of the focused awareness itself that is resting with that area of your body or that point in your body that does the work. It is not you that has to do anything to release any tension. Okay? So you want to do that with one point, and then once you've felt that relief, you move on to the next point, and when you have felt that relief, you want to move on to the next point, and so on. And I will walk you through the points soon. And now there are different ways of doing this exercise. Some choose to actually visualize like a little light in each point, or visualize the points in some other way. I encourage, as I said before, to be really real about it and just notice what you're actually experiencing at that point. And it can be a bit difficult to do it in a point-like way. So if you need to have a wider area and kind of, for example, that third eye, maybe you feel a whole area around it, that's okay. Just be aware that there is a central point to that area and then move from point to point. So the points help direct your attention, helps direct your exercise so that you can move through your whole body. So let's start at the first point, which is the third eye chakra. And you can focus on the skin level, or you can focus inside your skull, whatever works for you to keep your focus. And again, if you can keep a point-like focus, that is good. If you want it to be more spread out, to take in all the sensations, that is good. That's up to you. As long as you try to find a sense of relief, a sense of peace, a sense of calm, then you're ready to move on to the next point, which is throat chakra. And again, when you've found that release, you're ready to move on to the next point. And that is not the heart, it is the right shoulder. And from the right shoulder to the right elbow, to the right hand, and to all of the fingers one at a time. And I would suggest really take your time with each and every one of the fingers and each and every one of the points in general, because it's usually the places that we tend to feel are not important, or that we tend to they just work, you don't have to put any attention into that because it just works. Those are the places where we can find some surprises within ourselves, and every single place within our body deserves our attention, deserves our love. So in general, it's a good practice, and it's of course the same for the energetic level as well. Okay, so once you've moved through all of the fingers, you move back to the hand, back through the elbow, through the shoulder, and back to the throat. And now you want to do the left side. So you do the left shoulder, left elbow, left finger, starting from the thumb, index, long finger, ring finger, little finger, and then back to the hand, elbow, shoulder, and throat. Now we're ready to go to the chest. And if you're anything like me, maybe the chest will need a little bit of extra time because we can keep so much in there. So allow yourself all the time that you really need for each point. And once you feel that relief in the chest, at the center of the chest, then you can move to the right side of the chest and then back to center. and then to the left side of the chest, and then back to center. And now the next point is the solar plexus. And here is where I begin to freestyle it a little bit, because the strict point is the solar plexus. But when I do this exercise, I usually find that at the diaphragm, I can keep a lot of tension. And so if you have an area like that and you want to focus your attention on that, of course, include that point as well. All right. So after the solar plexus, we move on to the pelvis, so at the sacral chakra, and then out to the right hip, to the right knee, to the right foot, and then all the toes from big toe to little toe, back to foot, back to the knee, back to the hip, and back to the center where the sacral chakra is. And then all the same at the left side, right? So the left hip, the left knee, the left foot, big toe to little toe, and again, really allow yourself to give the time to each of the toes, because that'll be appreciated and you might learn something new. Okay, so back to the foot and to the knee and to the hip, pelvis. Now, again, this is where I might freestyle a little bit, because in the traditional method, you go straight up again. So it doesn't include the root. I usually like to do the root as well. So I go down one step and focus on the edge of my spine or at the perineum. And then I move up again to the sacrum, to the solar plexus, to the chest, to the throat, and then finally back to the third eye again. And again, if you want to, of course, you can also move up one bit more to the crown chakra. And so at the beginning, when you start doing this, probably you will only do the upper body at first, while you're getting used to the exercise, you're getting used to the points, you're getting used to focusing your awareness in this way, and then you're adding your lower body as you feel ready to. And with practice, you may see various different sensations come up. Okay, so you may feel warm or cold or tingling or a bit dizzy, or you may feel your heart starting to beat faster. So I had a period when my usual resting pulse was between 41 and 49, and during this exercise I was having my pulse between 52 and 116. So yes, I noticed that in terms of my body sweating, my heart beating fast, it was like this beating all over my body. And there was a period when I even had a couple of, electric jolts through my spine starting from this practice. And I believe that is not very common. I believe that that might be related to Kundalini. But still, a lot of things can get activated through this practice, and you're becoming more and more aware of all the things that are already going on. You may also have the experience that if you are, for example, injured, if you bring your focused awareness to that part and just be with it unconditionally, you can feel the energy, feel the healing starting to happen. So our awareness really is that powerful. This is how I became curious about energy work to begin with. I could really sense that I could shift and move around the energies with my own awareness, okay? But to be able to do that, you need to be able to feel the energies first. And so there's a practice going in there. And the more you practice this, the more you'll drop into your way of doing things, what feels beneficial, what feels good to you. So for example, I've had periods when at the end of the session, when you're in that space of, okay, I've been through all the points, I'm in this wonderful space now, where should I focus? My focus is naturally drawn to the heart space. And now this is not random. So the yogis say that usually the waking state is mostly associated with the Agna chakra, the third eye chakra. So that is what is most active when we're awake and running around. And then the dream sleep state, or the subconscious state, is mostly associated with the third chakra. And then when we're going really, really deep and we're dropping all of the stimuli, we're dropping all of the vehicles, and we're just resting within ourselves, that is more associated with our heart space, our Anahata chakra. Okay, so that is natural. And if you find yourself wondering where to rest your attention, you can always go there to your heart space. And what I found myself just naturally wanting to do at that time was loving kindness meditation, metta meditation. And I've had other periods when I've been more focused on the physical aspects, more focused on the energetic aspects. And I have had periods when I've been more focused on gratitude or on joy. And I will share with you one of my most recent favorites which is a two-step really, because it came from another exercise that is common in the same tradition, which is when you focus all your love into a glass of water before you drink it. So I would pair that with an exercise of giving love to my inner child. So I would focus on that glass of water being my inner child, and actually an innocent small child is really easy to love. And so I sent all my love to that innocent child, and then I would drink that water and let that kind of flush through me, that love for her, for that inner child. And then I realized I can actually bring that into my Yoga Nidra meditation. So that sensation, that affection that I was projecting into the glass, I could just as well project into my third eye chakra, into my third chakra, and so on, into all the points. And when I did this exercise, it was a really, really profound experience for me. It really helped me open my heart even more. So that is something you might want to try. You might want to freestyle, find your own methods. Don't limit yourself, okay? Whatever feels good to you, explore it, okay? There's no really wrong way to do it if you feel that you're inspired. Before we wrap this up, as promised, I'll share with you my experience with the Yoga Nidra state, maybe for some inspiration. And I didn't know when I was in this state that this was in fact Yoga Nidra. That came with the integration afterwards and this heart knowing that actually this is what it was. And I was in an awake state. I was lying down in meditation, and I kind of just fell into this space after I had done some inner work and let some stuff go. And the first thing I noticed was that, well, first of all, it was formless. I didn't have any visualizations, nothing like that. And there was this space. So there might be a thought, and then there was space. And in those spaces, there wasn't really anything at all, right? And when there was a thought, the first thing that came to my mind was that I'm not that thought. I'm not really attached to that thought. And then I asked myself, so I had this little inner dialogue to understand what this space was. So I asked myself, what is this space? And I answered myself, this is the space where nothing is important. Okay. And of course, when I heard that, a few things came up, like I'm important, what about me? And then I encouraged myself, or the other voice inside me encouraged myself to feel, is that really important here? And then I felt into it, and I was realizing actually in this state it isn't important. It just, I mean, of course, in I can recognize that in my waking state this is important to me, and that's not wrong, but in here it's almost like nothing is important. And it's not that desolate place of pointlessness, which I've spent a lot of time in. It's just this calm, peaceful presence, I would say tranquility, maybe equanimity. And so that is what I felt when I was confronting a thought coming up. And in between that, I didn't really feel anything at all because it wasn't important for me to feel anything at all. Okay. But I kept going through different thoughts, and then there would be a space, and then a thought, and then there would be a space, and then I would eventually come to love. Okay. And that was very interesting because I've made love my life's purpose. I've been through some really deep lows in my life, and I needed a guiding light, something that makes life worth living even if I have nothing, you know? And love would also be the promised way, the bhakti way of experiencing my own essential nature, right? It would be the one thing that would help me release all of the attachment until I could experience myself as I am. And so love is obviously very important to me, but in this space I recognized actually not even love is important. And that was a bit strange, but that's okay. And then I realized that love is actually a vehicle. Like everything is a vehicle. Every single thing that we experience is a vehicle. And when I realized that my mind that is narrating this, that is still trying to know what to do with a thought that is coming up, that is still a vehicle. And the only thing to do from here on is to learn how to release that vehicle. Now, that that might be as challenging as we imagine it is, I'm sure, and I'm not quite there yet, but being in that state in itself is a very, very healing experience, because it is working at the very root of all these things, all these seemingly important things in life. You gain a perspective, you gain the awareness that your awareness itself, that your life and life contains all of those things, and there is no real way to say what is important and not, because all of the things are important. They're all life, and yet they're all also not important. And so there is a big perspective that you then take into your waking state life, where you're integrating different things that are happening, and you can put them in this perspective, and then you can learn to let those things go that aren't serving you anymore. So that was my experience so far. I'm sure more will come. I hope that that was interesting to you. Maybe you want to share your own insights on this. Maybe you want to share your own experience. I'm always so happy to read about your stories, what you're learning. Please drop a comment below if that's you. And thank you so much for tuning in again. And I hope to see you next time. Namaste.